does that hope go, right? We hoped if we had a little more money, we could use that for helping others and improving our lives, but we found we weren't any happier. I had hoped that God would work through a certain medication or treatment. Don't we hope that sometimes, right? But now depression is back or cancer is back. So what does that mean for our hope? We had thought that God was going to work through a particular faith community or a certain religious leader, and now that person or community lets us down. And so where do you go from there? And this is a big part of what Cleopas and his partner are disappointed in, because they had expected better of their religious leaders, but those folks crumbled under pressure, and they handed him over. The whole crowd did nothing to stop this. In fact, they encouraged it too, right? So now that Jesus has been crucified and he's no longer with them physically, where do they locate their faith? Now that he has been crucified. And now that Christ has been raised and ascended, and we don't physically have him here, where do we look? And as we open the eyes of our faith and look around, we're invited to look so many unexpected places. He has not left us orphans, but is present with us. So as the eyes of our faith are open, we're trying to recognize him wherever he shows up. He's especially pointed out to look for him in the poor, the hungry, the imprisoned, the lonely. And that can be really hard to look in those places, because when we look there, we see pain and we see our own vulnerability. We say, I could be that person. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do because I can't make this any better. And yet he asks us to go there in those places anyway. He asks us to look in unexpected places for his presence. Sometimes, though, we insist on exclusively looking for Jesus in places that make us comfortable, in physical healing, in might and strength, in wealth, in having many friends. And these are some of the idols that we worship and trust in that let us down over and over. We know that God can show up anywhere and everywhere. But when we use our strength to hurt others and say that it was God's will, that is using the Lord's name in vain and misrepresenting the gospel. And pastors too, we get drawn into this sometimes. Priests and pastors, these temptations to see power as God-given and to use that power for our own enrichment sometimes, while ignoring people in pain and need. And the church has many examples of using its power to hurt people and build itself up. And so for the times that I have misused my power, I apologize, and I ask you to help me open the eyes of my faith, because it's all a process and all a road that we're on together, and I rely on you to help me on that road. And I apologize for a church that has repeatedly wounded people and taken its own power and used it in ways that hurt people. What I've really been humbled by is people who have been disappointed and hurt by the church and its leaders and still hold on to their faith. And there are many of you here who've had disappointments and hurts in your heart by people representing God and said that God was on their side and so forth. But I find people like you really inspiring. It's not easy to separate out what God is doing and what people are doing, especially when people claim to represent Christ. But you folks who have been hurt by the church have a lot